Hello and welcome to today's edition of Talk Shop, the podcast where we deep dive and talk shop on all the issues that interest us. I am the host and producer, DM Schmeier. This is my Loresworn partner and fellow Grandmaster, TJ Haver.
Hello, hello.
So today we are diving right into our best games of 1990, edition 2 in our entry of the best games ever list. We're going to probably just deep dive right into the best games of 1990 because, to be blunt, while I do consider myself classy as fuck to this day, there's no new entry in the classy as fuck dialogue.
Not really.
I drank some Maker's Mark a few days ago.
We have some grocery store coffee in front of us. It's you don't. Here's the thing about being classy as fuck. You don't have to be classy as fuck 24/7.
No, you don't. In fact, if you do, you've got a problem.
You can grab a PBR now and then.
If you do got to do it 24/7, you've got serious issues, y'all. Like serious issues.
If you're on a road trip through Colby, Kansas, and the only thing open is Arby's, go ahead and get yourself a roast beef sandwich. Why not?
Do it. Some chicken tenders. All right. Milkshake.
You can make it up to yourself, to your classy side
because
later.
we don't call classy as fuck 24/7 classy as fuck. We call that a bender.
Yeah. And you're gonna end up like Charlie Sheen if you try to be classy all the time.
Tiger Blood.
Yeah.
He was banging 7-gram rocks. That's how he rolled. Winning. All right.
The Loresworn Order is not by any means mean to suggest that crack is classy. Quite the opposite.
Making a joke.
No.
Based on the terrific songify of that interview.
Oh, yeah.
That's still, to this day, I think one of the hardest I've laughed is when I watched that YouTube video. I was in New Zealand, and my all-female roommates had to actually check on me, what's happening? Has he lost his mind?
Oh, man.
Because bluntly, we're probably a little insecure with living with one dude anyway.
You guys, you guys that weren't around for this, Charlie Sheen was one of the better memes of the 2000s. He kind of turned himself into a meme.
Yes, he did, intentionally too. Which is
I feel
empowering.
like he was self-aware. It's sort of similar to Shia LaBeouf today would be an example of someone who has turned themselves into a meme somewhat self-awarely.
Just do it, y'all.
Yeah, but rewinding back further than that, we're talking about 1990,
where Charlie Sheen was in a parody movie.
Yeah,
actually.
I think he might have even been going by his real name that far back.
Yeah,
but
the Mighty Ducks, his brother, with Emilio.
Yeah.
It was a thing that happened in the early 90s. Another thing that happened in the early 90s was, I think, that gaming as a pastime found its identity.
I always say, the 90s were the decade that gaming matured. I think that on January 1st, 1990, the games industry we know today didn't really exist. January 1st, 2000, the games industry we know today did exist.
Yes.
And it definitely grew a lot from 2000 to 2010, which we'll talk about in its own time. But I think that we're talking about a completely different medium almost if you go back further than 1990. Whereas by the time we get to 1999, we're looking at games that resemble to a large degree the types of games we still play today.
Fully matured on the storytelling and the narrative front throughout this decade. Although starting here in 1990, I think we see that. We see the echoes of what's to come with a lot of the games in our top fives. And
it's kind of a gradient. The early 90s aren't going to look all that much different from the 1980s. I think around 94, 95 is kind of when we're going to start seeing stuff that...
As I've been putting this list together, I've noticed what defines my 90, 91, 92, and 93 are really the top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It's like these were years defined, in my opinion, by a handful of critical releases that did something to move the industry forward in a ground-shaking way. It's starting in 95, you start to get what I call the avalanches, where actually making this list is hard.
Yeah.
Wow, I've got to actually sit back and debate between this honorable mention.
Yeah, definitely. 1990 and 91, 92, probably up till 94, I definitely felt like I can put every game that I liked that came out this year either in the top 5 or as one of my honorable mentions. I don't feel like I'm really missing anything.
No. No, I
Yeah.
certainly don't feel like I am.
Yeah.
I mean, we only really disagreed. I guess when you look at it, it's kind of in the honorable mention category. Is you had some honorable mentions I didn't, and you had a Mega Man title I didn't. But your defining Mega Man title was 3, whereas mine was 2. I'll admit I didn't play Mega Man 3. I didn't need to. Gaming kind of worked that way back then.
So that's my that is my number 5 for 1990 is Mega Man 3, which is definitely the early Mega Man game I remember playing the most. And we talked about it's a lot of the reasons that I like it are reasons we already talked about last week, since Mega Man 2 was on your 80s list.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Mega Man 2 is one of my favorite games ever.
Yeah,
I don't know that it'll make my top 25 when we actually put it to score, but it remains one of my favorite games ever. I played the piss out of that game, man.
Yeah, it was difficult platforming that felt rewarding when you actually got it right. You know, learning boss patterns, everything we talked about.
The new weapons you get.
Yeah. And not sure what else there really is to say about
Mega
Man.
it was the next iteration in a formula that had already proven to be brilliant.
Well, and I needed to have one old school Mega Man game on my list at some point, since I didn't really give them the shout out during the 80s that you did, and I felt like Mega Man 3 is the best example out of those earlier ones.
Early Mega Man games own a share of the trope Nintendo heart, in terms of actually bringing the Mega Man games in Contra are really the games that that defined the attitude of early console gamings, which was, this isn't just going to be easy. This isn't going to be gimme. One of the things that actually defines modern console gaming just as much is anyone who picks up the controller and can use it should be able to beat the game. That is not how console gaming took itself earlier in its history.
Yeah, it was the arcade style, games were still designed around the idea of sucking quarters out of you. But even if you own the cartridge, it's designed for you to not really be able to win. It's designed for you to want to keep trying over and over again.
And beating them became immensely satisfying, though. Immensely satisfying. I'll never forget finally getting through Sonic the Hedgehog 2 7 years after I first played it.
Oh man, that was a hard game.
Good Lord. And we every time you'd get past the stage that'd been bedeviling you for a year, the next stage would be even freaking worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh God.
I want to give a shout out to Capcom too, because they've made a good showing on this list already, and I'm thinking ahead to my lists for future years in the 90s and early 2000s.
Come on strong.
It's Capcom created some pretty freaking awesome franchises. Throughout their history, they never really rested on their laurels that much.
One could argue they're still not.
Yeah, I mean we still haven't played Resident Evil 7 yet.
We're getting there though, guys.
We will get there, and we're both.
I maintain my prediction that we'll finish with After Dark 4 in May.
Yeah,
I think that'll. I predicted that in March. I still think that'll come to pass. And then 7, baby. That's cool though.
So yeah, Capcom, big shout out.
My number 5 was Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake. Which
unfortunately a developer that has not kept up the same track record as Capcom in recent years.
No. That's a topic of its own.
Yeah.
That's a topic of its own.
But back in the 90s, they were just making awesome Metal Gear games. So.
Well, it's amazing how when looking back on it, nothing that happens in Metal Gear 2 as far as game mechanics is particularly, I guess, sophisticated. I would say it still plays simple. It's as easy to play as a Super Mario game, but it felt so ludicrously innovative.
Yeah,
and I'll admit, it's not the Metal Gear 2 is on my best games of 1990 list. I didn't play it in 1990, the year I was born.
Right.
I played it substantially later.
That's the case with a lot of these games up till about 94.
Yeah. Actually, this one through I used to be babysat by a succession of families, and one of them had a son about my cousin's age, and this was a game he had, and he was a great guy, and he'd always let me play his games because I think he could tell that I was a budding nerd, and he was an athlete.
That was a hard one to find back in the day, because the MSX2 was not really a common console.
I have no idea where he got it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it was a garage sale sort of thing.
Yeah.
because he got rid of it the same
Uh-huh.
way. And people, he parted with it the same way I think he got it, which is in like a garage sale, and I didn't get it. I did, however, get a lot of his Sega Genesis games though.
Yeah,
I got Earthworm Jim and Vector Man.
We're going to be talking about that. Next few episodes.
Yeah, I got Earthworm Jim from him. So for $10, it was a steal.
Yeah.
This was back. Remember, man, video games were just as expensive in 1990 as they are now.
Yeah.
If you account for inflation. Like, I would ask you ask your parents for a toy.
Yeah.
Like, I would ask my dad for a Sega game. He'd look at it, $50, and literally just laugh.
Yeah.
Like, loud and long and belly deep, and I felt like a fool.
Here's a slingshot, kid. Don't poke your eye out.
And then he'd just shake his head and push the cart further down the aisle, leaving me to sort through the emotional baggage that had just occurred.
We didn't even... I grew up with 3 siblings. We didn't even, between the 4 of us, own a home console until the Nintendo 64, and that was after years of begging when we finally just wore down. Like, we were always going to other people's houses to play Super Nintendo or play on the Genesis or whatever. It's actually part of the reason I became such a hardcore PC gamer, because I had a PC that was like our family PC that I could game on. But yeah, the Nintendo 64 in 1998 was actually the first home console that the Hafer household ever had. So
yeah, the Sega Genesis was ours.
Yeah,
but other people.
That's why I would come over to your house to play Genesis a lot.
Everybody had other. I was lucky. I got to play video games with other people. Like my cousin on his computer, he had a good PC. And like I said, some daycare and some babysitters who had a lot of obscure stuff. That's how I played an Atari. On at a babysitter's place.
Yeah.
But Metal Gear, it felt mind blowing, and I remember that. Like, I can hide, I can shoot, I can.
It's for all the jokes people make about him sometimes. I think Hideo Kojima has just been operating on a different level, like from the minute he got into the industry. Like, he just his brain works in a different way, and that sometimes leads to weirdness, like Quiet, and sometimes leads to amazingness, like game mechanics that nobody else would have ever thought of.
No genius hits a home run on every pitch.
Right,
like, he's tried some things that have sucked flat out, but he tried them. And his particular creative muscle, when he flexes them and when he gets a hit, they're staggeringly brilliant. And this was one of those that I think fell into that category. Now, I didn't get very far when I first touched it, and I didn't really understand the story. Got to come back to it later.
Well, guess what? If you're an adult today, you can play all of the Metal Gear games and still not understand the story. So
yeah, really at all.
Lolly lule lo.
The Metal Gear 2 story, nuclear proliferation, tension between nations, and all that. It's... Shoot, I'm just trying to remember a mature, dramatic game storyline that you can put ahead of it for that era. I think for that reason alone, it breached my top 5. It was like gaming as storytelling. I think this was 1990, granted, still so early in the history of digital gaming, but this was the high watermark for that point, I think.
Yeah.
I'm actually... When I was making this list, I did a double take that this came out in 1990. Like I said, I remember the game, and it seems so far beyond this.
Yeah, it's.
And of course, it was later ported, and later, in a bunch of different ways. And that's when I finally got to experience it. To the bitter end of completion was in a later version.
And that's the only time I've ever even touched it, is the ports that came out much later.
Game Boy Advance.
Right.
I think.
Didn't ever actually play enough of it to have it on my list.
Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance? I don't remember. But there was.
I think there was a Game Boy Advance version. Don't quote me on that. But
I remember playing this game again on a handheld. That's all That's all I'll say.
You can quote me on that F-Zero for the SNES is a fantastic game.
Number 4.
It's my number 4.
Made my honorable mentions.
I really liked F-Zero because it felt like the cool kids Mario Kart. Not that Mario Kart was not cool in itself, but when you're
come on, Rainbow Road
when
is no
you're-
post-apocalyptic landscape.
when you're like a preteen edgy kid of the 90s, and you have the choice between mushroom-headed guys zipping around the flower
Preteen
land track.
edgy kid? Did you really just say
I was an edgy preteen.
you were
kid.
an edgelord?
I was super edgelord. Oh
All
man,
right.
I can find documentation of this.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
F-Zero, it just felt so much cooler because there's like this dude with sunglasses and his name is Captain Falcon.
It felt faster too in terms of feeling fun. That was something that Mario Kart 64 managed to capture, but that earlier racing games didn't. F-Zero felt quick, which is why you race.
Yeah, uh-huh.
There's no video game called like Usain Bolt sprinting.
No.
Sprinting 2000, because that's no one wants to be a fast.
And somebody's gonna post in the comments that there is a Usain Bolt game.
Probably. I'm just saying, no one wants to feel like a admittedly nigh on bionic man running 25 miles an hour, because that's not fast like we understand fast. F-Zero felt fast.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going 200 miles an hour. I'm hauling, I'm ripping. And it's that feeling that makes racing games fun. If racing games don't feel quick and responsive, they're terrible. Yeah. And I can tell within 10 minutes of picking up a racing game whether or not I can spend a couple hours enjoying this game or not. And it's based primarily on, do I feel the speed? Do I feel the tension that comes with that?
Yeah.
If you don't, the designer's done a bad job.
Yeah.
And F-Zero did, an amazing job for this early of capturing.
Oh, yeah. Looking at SNES games, like especially early SNES games, you don't really remember how revolutionary that step up was. Like, you kind of remember that, the NES was 2D, and then the SNES was, kind of prettier looking 2D. But, that FX chip that they had in the SNES that let them do, parallax backgrounds and stuff, it was a huge step up. It wasn't as big as the step from SNES to N64, but SNES games, if you're writing a list of the best games from every year, and all of a sudden you transition from the NES era to the SNES era, you're like, wow. That was a big leap, bump up in visual fidelity, for sure.
And visual fidelity and in just the sophistication of gameplay.
Oh, yeah.
The processing power, that's so important in a console, even as far back as having as little to process as this era.
Definitely. So you're number 4. This is a game that I actually didn't play the original ever, even to this day. But I have enjoyed the series quite a bit.
Fire Emblem went from very good and innovative to being one of the seminal series in video games, in my opinion. Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Fate are just incredible. What was cool about Fire Emblem, though, was it added something that hadn't really been added up to this point, and that was that tactical RPG combat. Yeah, which is right up my alley.
Well, and it was the first game I remember. I don't think it was Fire Emblem 1, but it was one of the early Fire Emblem games.
Probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, I remember watching one of our friends play it, and I was just fascinated by the fact that you're controlling a small army of characters. Whereas it seems like every RPG up to that point, you have maybe 4 or 5.
Well, it's a distinct... Fire Emblem has stakes, man.
Yeah.
And Fire Emblem 1, arguably more than any of the other ones, in terms of being a hard and giving you no real respite. You have to be brilliant. You have to be their brilliant tactical commander. Or when you lose a character, they're gone. And that is a distinctly different feeling to the RTSs that dominated my childhood. Yeah. Where it's all numbers and you're looking to get that pop cap maxed out if you can. And then you send your death ball sweeping across the map. You can't do that in Fire Emblem. You get access to less units and they're people. And they have dialogue in the game. And they have personalities. Yeah. And they can be nixed. And that was powerful to me. Powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, again, it's a series that's only gotten better with time. I should go back and just play the original as a, for the hell of it, just to see where it all came from.
Yeah, see if you can. I don't know where you'd find a port. Maybe it's openware. I don't know.
I'm pretty, because I've had to find screenshots for a lot of these. Most of the most prominent ones are available either on DS or Wii U as a virtual console game.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Fire Emblem was one of those, but yeah, I think we'll probably push back my number 3 because it's also your number 1, so we should probably talk about it last. So the game that was your number 3 and my number 2 was The Secret of Monkey Island.
God, great game.
Actually in contention for my number 1.
And it was in contention for my number 2. So
yeah,
we were
definitely.
We were big Monkey Island fans, man.
This of all of like the early 90s point and click adventure games, I compared this one in the article version, which you can read on Loresworn.com. This was like video games, the video game world's equivalent to like the really good, Disney Pixar movies that came out.
Oh, I think that's an apt metaphor.
It's a little bit more risque in its humor, so it felt kind of grown up and like, oh, maybe I should be playing this.
The way I compare it, because I experienced it since, like Shrek, the original Shrek.
Yeah, that's very much the same tone.
Which was a masterpiece of PG humor.
Yeah.
Shrek and the Secret of Monkey Island games what they have in common is they are actually, when you break it down to its component parts, quite raunchy. Like, PG-13 is probably generous. Like, some of the jokes being told are raunchy.
It's PG with a PG-13 subtext.
The writers were so clever and so skilled that they made none of their humor obvious to children while still making the movie entertaining. And the games were the same way. It was like, I played The Secret of Monkey Island as a kid, I want to say a 10 or 11, at a friend's house, and we burnt an all-nighter. I tell the story in the article. We burned an all-nighter playing it, and it was a blast, and we laughed our butts off. I played The Secret of Monkey Island again on a port through GOG. I'm not going to say, I can't say it was within 3 or 4 years, because I don't think it was. I think it was earlier than that.
I think the remaster came out like maybe 2 years ago, but they've had the port available a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I want to say it was in college, and I was just blown away by how funny it still was.
Yeah.
And how much I know, I don't remember it, obviously, but how much I know went over the head of my 10, 11-year-old self. Like, wow, I know I missed that, and I'm laughing at it now, and man, that's incredible writing.
It was great characters, great writing. The insult sword fighting scene is still like one of my most memorable moments in any game that I've ever played.
Absolutely.
I think it was influential on kind of our early sense of humor too.
Oh, it was. Yeah. That was one of those like. So I went through a phase. I think everybody goes through a phase when you're sort of like a preteen, early teenager, where you just start quoting funny movies that you were amused constantly, and you and your friends share chuckles remembering the joke. I don't really do that as much as an adult. Look, because it's like, we all saw that movie, jackass. Like, that was funny. But younger, that was an activity that we'd all burn like hours. Sitting around. I had a group of friends. We just we watched Dude, Where's My Car? After we rented on from Blockbuster back when that was a thing.
So kids, they used to have a bunch of movies in a building, and you would go there and you would pay them to borrow movies, and then they would inevitably charge you extra money for not bringing it back on time, even if you did bring it back on time. It's the whole thing.
Netflix killed them deader than dead. Really. So I mean, we would just sit around for like 2 weeks, just literally like going through that movie line by line and laughing anew at it. And Secret of Monkey Island was kind of like that on my playground. And Secret of Monkey Island 2, because a lot of people played them together, because I believe there was a package that came out at some point. So we would just quote the game and rehash and just die laughing. And for a game that I only played once until I want to say like 19 or 20 years old, that made a pretty big impact on me. So I get why you rank it so high, and heck, I rank it high too. So, your number 2 is Final Fantasy 3.
Final Fantasy 3.
The first Final Fantasy with a sophisticated plot.
It. Also, as I was doing research, strangely enough, discovered this is the only Final Fantasy game that was never released in the United States in its original version. They did the update with like the 3D graphics and stuff for the DS and stuff. But yeah, the original NES cartridge was never existed in North America, which I thought was funny that like 1 and 2 came out here. 3 did not, just for some reason. I don't know.
Probably because 1 and 2 didn't find a lot of traction.
Could be, yeah. It could, but then like 4 came out in the US eventually. 5 came out in the US eventually.
Yep.
6 did really well. Even though they rebranded it as 3, which confused the shit out of everybody.
I will disclaimer this.
Yeah.
I played the update
Yeah.
of Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
Not the original Final Fantasy 3. So this is the only pick I've made so far, and I'll probably be one of only a handful of picks I make that feel a little bit like cheating.
Well, I think it's fair. Because we've gone back, we know what the original looked like.
Yeah.
And I think that the strength of the story is kind of...
I'm not judging artistic fidelity here. Graphics don't really matter a ton to me in this list. Like, they're a factor, don't get me wrong. You even hear me say for a bunch of these games, like, for its time, gorgeous. That's part of a wow. That's part of making an impression on me. But that's not what made Final Fantasy 3 brilliant. Final Fantasy 3 is a sophisticated, mature story, deep, text heavy, like you get into some of that novel territory that Final Fantasy is famous for, with a combat system that's really starting to come into its own, graduating up from 1 and 2, and it's a brilliant package. And to be honest, it blows my mind that it came out in 1990. Like, wow, would that game have felt revolutionary to a guy in 1990?
Yeah,
like wow, mind blowing, honestly. So you've got to if Final Fantasy 1 is where it all began. Final Fantasy 2 is a mediocre sequel to Final Fantasy 1, essentially.
Yeah.
No real tremendous upgrade and a plot that's by and large a rehash. But Final Fantasy 3 was an ambitious step up for the series. Like, we're going to try to do something even better and make it look even better and make it play even better. And that attitude led to the brilliant entries in the series. Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9... 10, 12, 15 aren't related hardly at all.
Yeah.
Like, different worlds, different characters, different continuities, different magic systems, even. But they're all brilliant in their own way, and it blows my mind. No other series can really say that, where it's like, wow, you just literally reinvented your setting, based around, of course, your common themes, reinvented how you do gameplay for the purpose of just telling a great RPG story, and it worked. And then it worked again. And then it worked again. And then it worked again. And the fact that the games only really share their DNA in common, that as adults they look nothing like each other, to use a biology. You know, they're almost different. They're almost different in different genuses. It's like, wow. And this is the game I feel like started that for this series.
And I definitely am interested to go back and check it out at some point, because I can definitely see that. I've played enough of 1 and 2, and I've played enough of 4 to see that there was a sea change there. Like, 4 seemed like a much more sophisticated game than 2 does. And much more sophisticated.
Granted, 4 is a better game than 3. Like, I could say that. If we make our top 100 list, I don't think 3 will be on it. But it was important and it was incredible. And up to this point, 1990, I think Final Fantasy 3 is the best or second best RPG ever made up to the point it was released.
Yeah.
So that's big. It's gonna make my list and it's gonna score highly. So
yeah, I mean, it's up against, if you look at our 80s list, basically, I mean, Ultima,
better than Ultima,
Dragon Slayer.
Better.
Yeah, not a lot of really great RPGs up to that point.
No, it's
Gauntlet, which is more of a dungeon crawler beat 'em up than an RPG. But
this is the game where Square started to do the things that made their brilliant RPGs that came later so good.
Yeah,
like this is when you could tell, if I remember correctly, when you're playing it, like, wow, you guys are finding something magic here. Like you discovered some things in the development of this title. You tapped into some stuff that's really quite impressive.
Nice. All right, so my number 1, which I believe was an honorable mention for you.
Yes.
Wing Commander.
was almost my number 5, but Metal Gear made a bigger impact on me. Wing Commander is an incredible game.
Wing Commander blew my mind. Imagine a world in which most of the games you have played up to this point are like 2D side-scrolling platformers. Or, they're like RPGs on the level of Final Fantasy where you're moving a 2D guy around a 2D overworld and fighting 2D monsters. And then this game comes along where you're sitting in a cockpit in first person, flying through space in 3D, like shooting other spaceships. I think it's immersion-wise, I think that it's one of the greatest moments in all of PC gaming in terms of before this existed, the bar for immersion was here.
Yes.
After this game existed, the bar for immersion was way up here.
I feel like Wing Commander made other more brilliant experiences like TIE Fighter possible.
And I did talk about that in the article. Like the sequels to Wing Commander and like the Star Wars games like TIE Fighter and X-Wing that came out after it and were inspired for it blow the original out of the water, but I still think the first Wing Commander is the best game that came out in 1990. Absolutely. I mean, it was that or Monkey Island, and ultimately I went with Wing Commander just because of the wow moment factor, because that was a wow moment. The first time you got behind a flight stick to play Wing Commander.
I think maybe the reason it made a bigger impact on you than me is I played it later.
Right, and I think you played TIE Fighter first.
Oh yeah, TIE Fighter and X-Wing first.
It's a much more sophisticated game, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But I played Wing Commander after, and I totally see it.
Yeah.
Like, Wing Commander came first, and kind of the first game of its like.
Yeah.
And you know what? Everything I said about Final Fantasy III, I think you can say about Wing Commander.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you did this in 1990.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Definitely.
That was a drone. We're flying rather low.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all right.
We're being spied on by
the drone.
The black site. The what's the underground in Fallout 4? The guys that make all the robots. The Institute. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
They're there.
Yeah.
If you hear sounds of laser blasts and terminate, we've been attacked by droids. So.
Yeah, exactly. So your number 1, my number 3, so it's sort of our... Either this or Monkey Island would be our consensus winner for 1990. Super Mario World.
Super Mario World is my beloved Super Mario game. It's the one that I remember when I think Super Mario. It's the one that I played second, and it's the one that I played through my childhood.
Yeah.
Before I couldn't anymore. Essentially, before those consoles started to break down. I never owned a Super Nintendo, but literally all my friends except for you did. And all my babysitters, and my aunt did too, and my cousin did. And so this was the game I would play, and I played it for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It took everything that was brilliant about Super Mario 3 and expounded upon it. Yeah. More mechanics, more power-ups, more depth, more behind-the-scenes secrets, larger. Like, that game, it was infinite. It seems like I would discover new stages every time that I would play.
Yeah.
Like, I remember getting to the booze for the first time and it blowing my mind. I love that mechanic. Like, I've got a platform, but I've got to turn away from these guys, like, to stop their moving.
Yeah.
I've got to... Like, later, the metaphor would come along, obviously, in 1999, but it felt kind of Matrixy, almost.
Yeah.
Like, all kinds of sophisticated jumping and swirling around. And, it's so cool. It had so many of those wow moments. Like, getting the cape. Getting on Yoshi for the first time. Like, yes!
Yeah, no, Yoshi was freaking ballin' for 1999 standards. Yeah, he was like the highlight of the game, I think, the first couple times I played it.
It was it's a huge wow moment, and it was so empowering to get to get on Yoshi. Like, oh my goodness. Now I'm moving faster, I'm jumping higher, I can eat stuff that I had to that earlier I had to either jump on or I couldn't even hurt.
Yeah.
I got this. I feel strong. And the platforming is just more sophisticated. It took it to another level. Some really fiendishly hard stages in Super Mario World.
Yeah, no, I think It's hard for me to pick. I think that Super Mario Bros. 3 still edges it out a little for me, and I don't exactly know that I could articulate why, but in most respects, Mario World was an evolution of the concepts from Super Mario Bros. 3. I mean, the overworld was this giant interconnected thing with all these like hidden paths. The enemy behavior, as you mentioned with the boos, was a lot more sophisticated. I think they had more processing power to program interesting enemies.
Yes.
Than was possible on the NES. It felt like that kind of they had taken all the ideas from Mario 3, and now that we're operating in 16 bits, they were able to push them to where they had originally envisioned them to go, which was awesome. The environments are clearly a lot more detailed. You had a lot more variety, and even just the backgrounds and the blocks that the stages were made up of. It was a great increase in fidelity in that respect. I think it's, in terms of the 2D old school Mario games, it would have to be between Mario World and Mario 3. Like those are 1 and 2 right there, and I could see the argument for either one of them to end up in first place.
Yeah. No,
I think it might honestly come down to that I have more fond memories of playing Mario 3 than I do
That's the one
Mario
you
World.
played. Mario World is the one I played.
Yeah.
Like, you play... Just like, there are a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog games, but I owned Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and I played the crap out of that game.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
That has an impact.
Definitely.
It definitely has an impact. It can't not.
Right.
Your memory, your tastes are largely shaped by your memories, and your memories are unique to you.
Yeah.
Like, what you played and when you played it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as you revealed your interesting background fact, you didn't play Mass Effect until it had been out for a while.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have a computer that could run the original Mass Effect when Mass Effect came out.
So your experience with it was totally different than mine.
Yeah.
And that's part of what makes it awesome. That's part of what makes it cool to come together around games and be like, this was my experience. And I have this, and we can discuss it together. That's what I love about it.
Oh yeah,
it's what I love about discussing media. It's why I think media history and exploring this stuff is worth it.
Yeah,
because man, no one experienced all this the same way.
Definitely
at the same time in the same order. There are games that came out before we were born. So
yeah.
That we're rendering judgment on with our different lenses.
Definitely. I think that's why 94, 95 are going to be exciting, because we can be like, this is the first year that we were playing new games the same year that they came out.
Yep. And I mean, for people giving kind of like eyebrow raises about that, like you were 5 or 6 and you were enjoying games that much, I'm not going to call us prodigal, but we were mature for our age for sure.
And here's the thing, is like, you're not going to find, like, Jumpstart First Grade on this list, because that's a game we enjoyed when we were 6 that we can now recognize does not hold up that well. No. It's not something we would go back and play again.
We were also...
All the games on this list that we played when we were 5 or 6 are games that we still think are good games at, 27, 28.
Yes. I will say this, though. We got him 27. Yep, that happened. That happened
a few days ago,
Yes, it sure did. Oh, God.
It's still... Hey... it still counts as mid-20s.
It's the last year I think that it does, but yes.
I'm going to turn 28 in September, and we'll see. I might be able to do some math to still count that as mid-20s. We'll see.
We're approaching the big 3-0. How bizarre is that?
Yeah.
Like, good Lord. I remember being 6.
I do.
Like, oh, man.
No, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I remember being 6. Which means my father was, I think, 34.
Yeah.
Which means he was 7 years older than I am now.
Yeah.
Like, good God.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have a child next year. I can say that with a reasonable degree of confidence.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances, yeah.
I would say my confidence in making that statement is quite high.
Yeah.
Surprises happen.
Yeah, We make every effort to be careful, so yeah.
The joke the joke I once cracked that is the least appropriate recognizing looking back joke that I have ever cracked was that a retail / service job I held before my current slate of jobs. I'm not going to say which it was. And a mother and her little girl came in, and the little girl was just as precocious as could be. She was adorable. She couldn't have been older than like 4 or 5. So talkative, so articulate, asking me just tons of questions about my job, which I found adorable.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? And why do you do that? And is it hard? Are you tired? And all that. And I'm pretty good at the customer service thing. That's why wherever I end up working, I tend to actually get promoted pretty quickly. It's because I'm personable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't. I actually found out that being antisocial is a huge weakness in the modern workforce.
Yeah.
So I interacted with this kid, and I charmed her quite a bit. And so Mama's appreciative. She keeps looking over at me and mouthing thank you and whatnot as she does a little shopping.
Yeah.
And they come back to check out. And the final question this kid asks me is, "What's your name?" I told her my name, and she said, "Do you have any children?" And without missing a beat, I thought it'd be a good idea to say, "Well, I must somewhere." And the look the mother gave me, was like if I could, I should be dead if looks could kill.
I have a similar story, but around a different topic. So when I was working at my college newspaper, which was the first paid journalism job I ever had, I was the arts and entertainment editor. And they were bringing a Boy Scout group up to talk with us about like journalism ethics and honesty and integrity and stuff like that. These kids had my number. When they realized that I was the arts and entertainment editor and that I got paid to review video games, all they wanted to ask about was video games, which clearly the troop leader and the parents were not as into that line of questioning. One of them asked me how many video games I own. And again, without thinking, I'm just being honest. I go, I don't know, probably over 100. And I get daggers from this one mom. She must have been the mom of the kid that asked the question. Like, just absolute daggers.
That is like, not what I wanted from you at this moment in time.
You're telling my kid that it's normal to own over 100 video games. Like, she probably...
Over 100? We own over 300 apiece, ladies and gentlemen.
My Steam library is like 170 something, I want to say.
Our combined Steam libraries are about 368.
Something like that, but yeah.
And that doesn't count the console games we own, which are expansive.
But yeah, I think that the troop leader realized where this was headed and changed the subject very quickly to how important is honesty if you're a reporter. It's like, it's the most important thing. I tried to win him back.
Tried to redeem him.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I did not win the mom of the little girl back. She got out of there as fast as she freaking could. And my coworker, who was this like raunchy, hippie older woman in her 60s, she had my back, by which I mean she just starts dying laughing like through this whole thing happened, which made it worse, but it cued me in that what I did was funny because what I did was so reflexive. So now I'm trying to keep a straight face because like what I did just kind of sunk in, which is making the whole situation worse.
Yeah.
And the other moms in the store, I can tell, don't appreciate it. Like their opinion of me immediately cratered.
Yeah.
And, but I did get a fist bump from like a teenager who's kind of the last person through my line, like, dude, that was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping he was saying like, dude, that was an awesome joke, dude, and not like, oh, dude, you've got an abandoned brood somewhere, dude. Fist bump, you freaking deadbeat. Like, I'm hoping that's what that was.
Yeah.
That was for.
Hopefully.
But so that's my Matthew Spader from Boston Legal joke right there.
There you go.
I think he said a similar thing in an episode of Boston Legal.
You can tell we're almost 30 because we're referencing Boston Legal, which is a television show that nobody has talked about.
Dylan McDermott, the fat guy from Brooklyn.
The one that everybody wanted to see William Shatner again tried to watch, and they realized William Shatner had kind of become a bummer of a person in his later years.
He's the Rocket Man. Putting out his fuse out here alone. So that's the best. That's the best joke I've ever. That's the best joke I've ever sabotaged my fleeting reputation with one person for. The part that frustrates me to this day, though, is that I didn't mean to tell it. It literally just kind of like came out of my mouth. Like, one of those like you're reaching for the words to pull them back after that. I do that a lot.
Like, let's just hit Prince of Persia: Sands of Time rewind button on that one. Yeah, so our best games Olympics, I think we can finish out with that. This is the data portion of our column where we're giving games a rank, or each game we talk about earns points for its developer, platform, and country of origin. Number 1s get 10 points, number 10s get 1, honorable mentions get a half. So the NES is still decidedly on top, as they were for the 80s list.
But their time at the top is probably over.
Actually,
spoiler alert.
On my personal list, the PC is only 4.5 points behind. But yeah, since the SNES is here, it jumped out of nowhere into the number 3 spot.
And I'd imagine will continue to climb.
Top platform. Yeah, the NES didn't really have a lot of notable releases past this point, so I think although they have a commanding lead right now, they're going to start to slip. PC has moved up from the 3rd spot to the 2nd spot. That I feel like the PC is going to be our overall winner, just because consoles change, but from here forward, the PC is consistent, like throughout.
I think PC will be the overall winner. Yes, I think I would imagine the PlayStation 2 and the N64 will give it a sweaty moment.
PlayStation 2 was around for a long ass time
and had arguably some of the greatest games of all time on it.
Yeah.
So it will definitely. My personal prediction for second place is the PS2.
It definitely will be on your list. I didn't own one, so I don't know where it'll end up on the overall list. But I think absolutely on your list, PS2 is probably going to be the number 2. Yeah, Apple II plummeted from the lofty heights of number 2 to number 4.
It will probably not receive another point.
No.
So
I can say pretty much for certain that it will not receive another point, but it made a valiant showing. Let's see. So developer-wise, Nintendo still far and away ahead.
Yep. Nintendo even added to its lead in this iteration.
Origin Systems, since you called them out last week for... what was it? They were really high on your list last week. That's all I remember. Ultima, right, which I didn't even play. This week it was the reverse. I really liked Wing Commander. But the combination of those two callouts has bumped them up to number 2 after Nintendo.
And they deserve it.
Yeah.
Some really brilliant, innovative experiences.
Thanks to Monkey Island, LucasArts has come out of nowhere.
And I think I predict LucasArts will have a great showing in this Game Olympics. I really do.
Not only because of their adventure games, but we've got X-Wing, we've got TIE Fighter, we've got Rebel Assault. Like, they made so much good stuff in the 90s.
Spoiler alert, X-Wing and Rebel Assault and TIE Fighter will probably be on our top 5 list the years they came out.
Definitely. So. Yeah, we're seeing some kind of the one-hit wonder devs like MECC and Nihon Falcom are starting to fall off.
And they're probably not going to come back.
Yeah, we're not going to track anything beyond the top 10, so this might be the last that you see of some of these guys.
If we tracked literally everything, this page by 1999 would be long as shit.
My internal list, I'm having to track them all just in case any of them earn points later on, like Bullfrog, might pop back up again later. But yeah, in terms of what we're going to show you, it's just going to be the top 10. And then the rankings for Nation Wars have not changed at all. It's still Japan number 1, US number 2, and UK number 3. Japan actually widened their lead, so we'll have to see if anyone ever surpasses them, because it's not like Japan ever stopped making good games.
No. To this day, like Persona 5 is so far my leading contender for Game of the Year. So
I definitely within the last 10-15 years have played a lot more Western games than I have Japanese games, but Japan is just off to such a strong lead that I think it's going to be hard to chip into it, especially because within the last decade, there have been a lot more countries making good games. Sweden has made some really good ones.
It has.
Yeah, Canada is going to be on the board a lot with, BioWare.
It becomes global.
Yeah.
It becomes global.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I mean, BioWare has other offices.
Yeah, they have American and Canadian offices.
We'll talk about whether or not to differentiate them because it's all one developer.
I think if it's if it's a game that was made primarily in Montreal, we should probably give those points
I'll
to
give
Canada.
Canada the point. I just don't know that I want to separate BioWare into BioWare Edmonton, BioWare Dallas.
Oh yeah, we'll probably keep BioWare as a developer as a single entry on the developer list.
We'll definitely do the extra 2 minutes of work to give the right nation the right points.
Exactly. Yeah, and we'll also, with like Square, once they become Square Enix, we'll probably keep that combined. We'll give them all the points from Square and Enix.
Yes,
well, it's
that was a legitimate and legal merger.
Yeah,
they did not create a new entity; it merged.
Yeah,
so Square Enix still holds the copyright of a lot of SquareSoft and Enix games, which to me, the lawyer, should qualify them for that.
Yeah.
It's like if you still are a legal former or current rights holder in a property, their points are yours.
Well, and there are some cases where it won't be that way, like Lionhead and Bullfrog. You know, we're not awarding points to Peter Molyneux. Those are two separate studios, so they will probably earn points.
Well, exactly. They're separate studios. They're legally. They have the same founder, but he founded different companies.
Yeah.
He didn't merge them.
Right.
He didn't acquire the rights through a new venture.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason we wouldn't give all the points from Obsidian and BioWare to Black Isle, just because a lot of those guys started at Black Isle.
Yeah, no.
But,
we're tracking the company. We're tracking for better or for worse. It has its own pitfalls, but we're tracking the company, not the people.
Yep. So I think that's about it for 1990. Looking forward to the rest of the 90s for sure, because it gets to be more and more of our era with every year that passes.
Really, there were some great games in 91. Like some great games in 91 and 92. I'm really looking forward to talking about them.
Definitely.
So, that'll go up in a couple of days.
Next, Saturday. You can read the Best of 1990 list in article form right now. The written version of the 91 list is going to go live on the Saturday after this comes out. And then a week from today, we'll have a podcast talking about the best games of 91. And maybe some more classy as fuck, depending on how classy we get in the next 7 days here.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've got a long work week ahead of me, so a lot of writing, a lot of working. We got a lot of working, a lot of recording to do.
Yeah,
some class might be required in the joint at one point in time.
Yeah, this joint might have its class upped.
You know what's funny? I keep thinking it's like one of these days we should just do a classy podcast, but then I remember how that Overwatch session went. Yeah, I really just don't want that on the internet. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no, that will be like a $1,000 Patreon reward. Is that we will
with an NDA saying this is for you alone.
Bring you into a room.
Don't share it.
You don't get to bring a phone or a camera in, but you get to watch when we just got blasted and recorded like 6 matches of Overwatch.
That is in my top
blasted.
That is in my top 5 of most 3 sheets to the wind I have ever frickin' been. Like, my god.
That was not really classy at all. That was like white girl wasted.
Dude, that was beyond white girl wasted to like 1940s patriarch wasted.
Yeah,
like that was. Yeah. The new generation's gone to pot. We just started singing Journey at one point for no reason.
No, yeah.
Spoiler alert, we were off key.
And it wasn't synced up because I was trying to get it to play over the microphone through my headphone speakers, which does not work.
We were off key, I think, substantially and out of time. Which, speaking of out of time, segue,
yeah. Make sure to check out Loresworn.com, including all of the articles for the best of each year. At Loresworn Order on Twitter. I am at AsaTJ. DM is at DM Schmeier. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We've got cool stuff on the way as always.
The Star Kaiser series is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna. It has to be as much fun to watch as it is to make. I just have to imagine.
I would hope so. Yeah, we're loving that. So
it's a blast.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Peace.